A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another interesting session of GETI Talk. My name is Shilpi. I'm the Relationship Manager with the Global Education and Training Institute. Global Education and Training Institute has now been 10 years, and on this GETI Talk, we have completed more than 950 live sessions from educators all around the world. And GETI is also dedicated to upskilling teachers. Therefore, we have teachers training, which is for in-service and pre-service teachers as well. For further information for this, you can call on the numbers which you can see in the banner below. And now I would like to welcome my very esteemed guest, Mrs Ninette Dsousa. She is an educator and a motivational speaker in Canossa High School, which is situated in Mahim, Mumbai. She has been into this field of education for the last more than 25 years, and she has been dedicating her skills. She has been gifted by God for what we call the gift of the gab, and she is making a very good use of it by public speaking, and also she is a creative writer. Her articles have been published in many newspapers as well. So thank you, Mrs. Dsousa, for being here. And the thing that she's going to talk about, what is the most essential thing these days, and that's technology. Education had never imagined that technology would ever play such a major role in education, especially the traditional education that we have in India. So that is what she's going to talk about: to tech or not to tech. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us, and please, you can now go ahead with your presentation.
Thank you very much, Shilpi, for that wonderful introduction. Good morning, everyone. At the outset, let me take this opportunity to thank Dr. Sunita Gandhi, the founder of GETI. Through an initiative of GETI, Dr. Gandhi envisioned the next quantum leap in education, which is to train teachers and trainee teachers to become educational leaders. I would also like to thank Ria and Preena for their help and prep to this live session entitled To Tech or Not to Tech. My deliberations today have been formulated by my myriad conversations and discussions that I've been having over the last year and a half with some stakeholders in education, namely students, teachers, parents, and a few members of the management cadre. The narrative has also been shaped by my identity as a teacher passionate about her vocation, besides being a member of a family in lockdown. 2020 was a year of hurdles. Many people wanted to just write it off the calendar and jump from 2019 straight to 2021. But things don't seem to have gotten better thus far. Life, as we knew it, has been nothing short of unmitigated chaos from day one of India's first lockdown. As a country, we reacted to the pandemic and its repercussions and struggled to keep ourselves afloat, plodding through under really trying circumstances. Decisions, however difficult, and there were plenty, had to be taken, whether it was by individuals, corporates, the government, or the educational sector. In hindsight, I can say that as a school, with probably not much planning under our belt, we plunged into online teaching, tackling hurdles and rectifying mistakes along the way. Our action was more emotive than analytic, fueled as it was by the primary need to get our kids, wherever they were, into a virtual classroom literally overnight, and to bring as much content to education as we could. During the last academic year, many of our children were ensconced in various parts of the country. And the remote learning that we did helped us not just meet the kids where they were at, but we were able to give them access to teachers and coursework so that they could avail of schooling via a laptop or a smartphone. We didn't want our children lagging behind in their development. Allow me to share today how the lockdown didn't get everyone bogged down. A brother of a student, while awaiting the decision on his HSC board exam, decided to put his talent in music to good use and recreated the covers of a few albums. It was amazing to see how the internet helps creativity, and even amateur home mixing can help you create some wonderful videos. A neighbor used her culinary skills to create dishes that one would normally order in, adding a twist of her own to each dish. In her videos, she shares a secret or two, and that makes us look forward to them. The niece of a friend, post her graduation in evolutionary psychology, is furthering her education and skill set with an in depth online course sequence in behavioral therapy offered by the Florida Institute of Technology while living in Bengaluru with her family. YouTube can certainly help you learn from people's experiences if you are not an avid reader. It was astonishing to espy my own son all through last year and even now conducting his maths and chess coaching classes using Google Meet with explanations happening through screen sharing. Playing housey with the family spread all across the globe through Zoom meetings is good fun. As a school, too, we had many online programs. We celebrated the national festivals, Teachers and Children's Days, Diwali and Christmas, the retirement of our supervisor, and class wise annual days. All these programs gave many more children a chance to participate and brought out some hidden talents. Students in the confines of their homes recorded videos of themselves doing physical training exercises, marching, yoga asanas, and Surya Namaskar, and forwarded the same to me on WhatsApp. I watched the videos and marked them as the physical training teacher assigned to the class. When we began online teaching last year, I went into total meltdown. Besides the anxiety and fear of the coronavirus, courtesy the University of WhatsApp and the rhetoric on TV, the innate fear that I was not tech savvy enough to handle this new mode of teaching was what created a serious mental block. I sent out messages in trepidation to all and sundry and received tons of edifying responses, which was what helped me take on what for me was a really gigantic task. I must have attended at least 5 different webinars conducted at different hours of the day and by different educational forums. Besides paying careful attention to our own school computer staff who explained everything patiently and thoroughly. I took down steps verbatim from start to finish, but when I sat before my desktop, I froze. My older son took the responsibility of helping me learn, unlearn, relearn right through the entire academic year. In a day, he had figured out all the Google forums associated with education. And if he was not around 5 minutes before I was due to start a lesson, in desperation, I would get the other son to rock and roll. Well, both boys had downloaded the necessary email IDs and passwords, and one or the other would log in when I did. Their reasoning? It was better for me to focus on presenting the lesson while they handled the responsibility of admitting students, reading the messages sent by students, and answering them after okaying with me in sign language. Since all actions were concurrent, coordination and presence of mind was key to a good lesson. I was working with a last generation AMD Phenom desktop, which had neither camera nor inbuilt speakers. So if I wanted to show a video, my son would have to disconnect the headphones I was using and connect to the external speakers and reverse the process when the video ended. If I asked students to present their work, then I needed to use the screens on the phones of my two boys. Towards the year's end, this desktop would not work for more than 2 hours at a stretch. Obviously, it was on its last legs, but thankfully, it lasted out the academic year. Uh, that's not all. The rest of the family had to be holed up in the only other free room in the home, the kitchen, along with the bird, an Indian myna that can be most distracting when least expected, and our pets, two stray dogs which have been with us a good 10 years. All phones on mute. And if conversations had to be had, then they had to be done so in the bathroom. Other measures taken were to shut all windows to avoid outside disturbance, switch off all fans and switch on the AC, put off the doorbell, and finally, a notice on the safety door intimating neighbors and delivery guys that a lesson was in progress. This will remain an indelible memory. In the latter half of the year, I was asked to teach maths to standard 7. Now, we were using Google Classroom for standards 5 to 8, so I had to make videos of my lessons. And I thought, this is going to be a cakewalk compared to making PowerPoints in algebra for standard 10. This was easier said than done. Now, my second son got into the act. He sat me down, and together we figured out how many videos would be required per lesson based on the concepts covered, what should be the length of the videos, keeping in mind the connectivity issues and the kind of service the children would be having, how to angle my head to get clarity and best intensity of sound could be captured, where to place my hand. And all these instructions came in handy while I was solving sums on a book, talking at the same time, and he was recording on his phone. He took me through the process of uploading my first video and was always around when I was ready to post the others. We borrowed the unused premises of a neighbor to record all our videos, including some on food and nutrition for the physical training class. Someone might say, why am I choosing to share all this? One reason is I had to start off the blocks without the necessary resources or training. And if I had not had the help that I had, I just might have given up. The second being, an effective speech is not a sermon, but a witness. Essentially, the principle is this: if you don't have any advice to give, share your story, because most people love a good one. Sometime in mid-May, the hot topic of debate on television was the judiciary's reaction to the SSC board's cancellation of the 10th standard board exam, but wanting to conduct the other big B, which again now stands cancelled. I happened to watch a talk show in which the participants were a principal of a school and junior college and two very apprehensive students of standard 12. Ma'am raised many points, but the one that struck me was this. She asked, how can we have these one-time examinations decide the futures of our children? Is it fair? She suggested, why not take a look at how the child has done right from kindergarten? Personally, I agree with her. I think it's a very good idea to take an average of all the years of formal education that the child has gone through to see how well the child has been formed. I think what she said probably resonated with the education department, because soon after that, they came out with an evaluation scheme for the students of standard 10 of the last academic year. 50% of their marks are going to be from the ninth standard matter that they have learned and answered. And the remaining 50% is the internal evaluation of standard 10 broken into 30 and 20. I think, and I'm sure many will agree with me, that if the board continues with this measure, children and parents will take the education imparted more seriously, and schools too will realize that they can be held accountable. Don't get me wrong, but today, many are doing things the way they want, allowing for laxity and manipulation to make a backdoor entrance. I would like to shed a little light here on Gandhi's views regarding education, which he envisaged as instructions preparing young learners to become morally sound, individually independent, socially constructive, economically productive, and responsible future citizens. He considered these instructions as education for life, education through life, and education throughout life. Gandhi said, and I quote, "By education, I mean the all round drawing out of the best in a child's or man's body, mind, and spirit. Literacy is neither the beginning nor the end of education. It is simply a means by which one can be educated." Unquote. Gandhi was very vocal that the education received should develop human values in the child. Development of the personality was more important to him than the mere knowledge of different subjects. The way I see it, the work from home culture and online education, particularly, are likely to stay here in the foreseeable future. And for this to be a success, we need a paradigm shift in our education pattern, which ought to be more practical and productivity inclined rather than rote learning. Here is a parent's brief analysis. She said, "Today, education is vomiting something out onto an answer sheet and forgetting it 2 minutes later." I'm sure all educators will be in agreement that the education system has to evolve and start thinking out of the box. It needs to be more interactive and thought provoking. Can biannual tests and exams really measure a student's understanding? Couldn't they be replaced by regular worksheets that test concepts? These would involve an understanding of the matter learned rather than just writing what has been memorized from notes and guides. I would state with certitude, it's no big deal if you are not great in studies, because education is not about becoming doctors, engineers, and lawyers anymore. An ex student who is a personality development trainer for corporates advises, please invest 20 minutes in yourself daily on growth versus 20 minutes on Netflix. This simple truth is applicable to adults as much as it is to students, in fact, to anyone who wishes to live a happy, fulfilling life. It helps us know our strengths and weaknesses, our talents and skills, which we can then marry with the many opportunities available today to help us become productive and earn a living. In dynamic societies, education has to equip individuals with the skills and attitudes necessary for them to adapt to changing conditions and for constructive participation in the task of social change. This, I believe, will certainly prove helpful in solving the problems of frustration, anxiety, and depression, and will reduce the burden on emotional support helplines. Gandhi's basic education scheme was job centered, value based, and mass oriented, which are the primary requisites today. Time for some serious thinking and change for the powers that be if they do not want to deform and obfuscate any further the true aim of education, which is to provide direction to the process of education, for it is only education that ensures peaceful existence of society. Gen Z is looking for change and they are a lot more opinionated, trust me. Last year, along with teaching algebra to standard 10, I was also tasked with doing self development, a great subject with the same batch of students. This subject doesn't have a written paper, so students are given projects on the topics discussed in class and are graded accordingly. Basically, it is a chance for the students to open up, to speak out, to express themselves, to form opinions without judgment. And as their teacher, I validated right assumptions and subtly steered them away when I felt they were in the gray zone. There were lots of goings on when we started out with self development, such as the Sushant Singh Rajput suicide case, celebrities posting home gymming videos, the upper echelon of society performing household tasks as if they were some major accomplishments, while a multitude of helpers lurked in the background. This kind of rubbed salt into the wounds of the middle class, who were making do with with walks within the four walls of their small homes, who were executing everything themselves while trying to keep spirits alive and keeping the family together. I must have let my indifference towards social media show forth more than once, and the raucous response took me completely off guard. Students who had never opened their mouth during the algebra period for the entire year had something to say in defense of their use of social media. The two classes that had been assigned to this topic turned up into four of 45 minutes duration each, and I had to literally cut short the class because I was experiencing a lynching feeling from these 15 something year olds. And it made me realize that technology, at least in the form of social media, was part and parcel of their day to day lives. Allow me to flip the coin, the audience, so you can perceive why the optimism and contentment of the current unfamiliar method of teaching and learning was transient, at least in my case. Currently, there are many articles doing the round discussing how virtual learning is not happening right, and I'm partial towards them. For the most part, until June 2020, we were hardly wanting or needing to go 100% virtual. Many students would log in just to record their attendance, but would not respond at all. Those who chose to respond to my greeting at the start of the class would be the same four or five students who would interact with me during the entire class. And this was out of 45 students who had logged in, out of a strength of 75. If I asked them why they were not responding, if I called them out by name even to find out why they were not answering a question, the standard rejoinder was to message, "Miss, my mic is not working." If I asked them to present their work, you guessed right, the camera was not functioning. This was not specific to me, but was happening with colleagues in my own school and in other schools as well. I know of teachers who called up students at all hours of the day to conduct orals because at the time given to the student, he or she would be having network issues. When we called up parents, they wouldn't answer our calls. I have gone so far as to use my husband's phone to call up students regarding their assignments because they would not recognize the number. Personally, teaching maths to standard 7 was not satisfying at all. This age group of children is really very moldable and they bubble with energy. I miss that live interaction with them. I also found it very difficult to clarify or explain or correct a concept that the child had not quite grasped through chat box messages. Maybe I'm too set in my ways, considering I'm soon to retire in a couple of months. But I have always believed and will continue to believe that to open up a child's mind to understanding maths, you need a blackboard, chalk and duster when permitted, pen and paper, and of course, the teacher. No doubt, we did have genuine problems. There were many students, many families where there was just one phone that was available and more than one child needed access to it. So, how was the family to prioritize? There were children and teachers even who faced connectivity issues. The school provided access to those who had no access to technology, and they allowed them to come and study in the school itself, following all standard operating procedures, so that these children would be in the loop and not feel excluded. So, yes, access and connectivity are two main behind the scenes issues that need to be addressed and addressed quickly. With a little more time now at their disposal and with in depth retrospection, I'm sure most schools by now have in place powerful virtual and online learning opportunities. If the planning allows for teachers to work with smaller groups of students, leading to an individualized learning, it would be really great. We need to leverage the tools of technology in unique and creative ways that actually free up instructional time for the teachers and provide them with meaningful data on how their students are faring. Teachers need to be equipped with a robust toolbox of technology accompanied with the necessary training. This will ensure that the technology is used the way it was intended and the teacher will have the necessary skills. If a teacher is trying to deliver a lesson over video or use a learning management system or needs remote IT help from the school and the needs are not met, you have at best a dissatisfied teacher. At worst, a dissatisfied teacher whose lack of productivity will also have major implication on the learning outcomes of the students. The IT training is not all that's required. It has to be balanced with an ongoing and sustainable professional development. The notion of the teacher as expert, we all know, is fast losing ground to Google, Wikipedia, and other similar sources of intelligence that students have access to. Let's not forget, schools have a special place in our lives. They are the place we come to get better, to have those difficult conversations, to improve ourselves, to grow up, to build virtues. The school system does not teach it's good to fail, but successful men all fail. And one does not need to be afraid of failure is a key skill that students develop while in school. This places schools in a unique position when it comes to helping us ponder how best to anticipate the unintended consequences of technology and how best to manage them. Saint Magdalene of Canossa, the founders of the Canossian Institute, held the belief that the heart of education is the education of the heart. How are we to build character? How are we to engender the right kinds of curiosity and self reflection required to solve complex problems of life through technology? Our institutions, which are solid, reliable structures, ensuring that the rest of our lives work well, are designed to be conservative. It is understandable if they feel daunted by the task of keeping up with the fast paced changes taking place. Hence, as educators, the onus is on us to make sure our schools do not become a liability, rather, continue to remain a source of security and fairness. For some children, virtual learning and self study works. But for many, in India at least, in government and aided schools, this isn't the right learning paradigm for use full time, all the time. A fact hard to hide is that in our schools today, a multitude of children come from dysfunctional homes where broken and abusive families and living a hand to mouth existence is the norm. In my 26 years of service, I have come to the conclusion that the school is the oasis where children forget all their problems while bonding with their peers. The school, according to St. Magdalene, ought to be the haven where children experience from their teachers and management love. Love that is manifested in acts of care and concern, material and financial sustenance, even correction meted out in tenderness, keeping the dignity of the child intact. The school I come from has a multitude of first generation learners, and I'm proud that these children can share everything with the child of a businessman, a doctor, I don't know, or any other celebrity. Everything from a desk and lessons to laughter and food, availing of all opportunities without distinction. Friends, the demography of our classrooms has changed drastically. And today we have a plethora of students availing of an education hitherto unheard of. For many, the school and all its resources, human or otherwise, are a chance to make something of themselves, to better themselves, to say, I can, I should, and I will make a big difference in my life and in the world at large. The new normal being bandied about, particularly with respect to education, is that technology will take over the field and that it will be a good thing. I have my reservations. The best brains of the country may be found on the last benches of the classroom, opined the wise APJ Kalam. To find those creative geniuses, you need the kinesis of a teacher, whether in a physical or virtual classroom. If we do not want to be held responsible for putting out 21st century brilliant adults who cannot blend the twin qualities of head and heart, then as educators, we are obligated to reflect and adapt our pedagogy by inculcating value based education from the time the children enroll for formal education as impressionable 4-year-olds. These values have to be modeled by the staff and the management, remembering always that values are caught, not taught. Value based education creates a learning environment whereby a school's ethos is underpinned by strong core values. It supports the development of the whole child as a reflective learner within calm, caring, happy, and purposeful environs. Value-based education is transformational, for it impacts not just the students, but the entire school community by having a direct influence on the entire curriculum and more specifically on spiritual, moral, social, cultural, and health education. Enactment of these values in shared behavior and language across the entire school will enable the children to develop their cognitive understanding and their inner selves. Keeping their personal dynamics in mind, every school must plan and execute a range of values so that at the end of a good 12 years, pupils can exit the portals of the school having learnt about healthy lifestyles, building relationships, respecting differences between people, developing confidence and responsibility to make the most of their talents and skills, and above all, play an active role as an informed citizenry. This, I believe, would be learning in the true sense of the word. We may end up with individuals who have a little less IQ, but hey, they would exhibit a higher SQ and EQ. For this to fructify, technology notwithstanding, the single most important factor in any classroom will continue to be the teacher. And I most certainly am proud to be one. Thank you.
Thank you, sister. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for this speech. A very wonderful speech was there regarding the tech. Um, those teachers who are a little hesitant, still, who have been quite old in this education system, like 25, 26 years back. So they are very hesitant to learn these new upcoming technologies. So, anything would you like to tell them that how important it is for them to upgrade themselves? They usually tell us that it's been years for us teaching now, and learning at this age is not going to bring any difference to us. So, how would you tell them that even at any age, technology can be learned? It is not that difficult, and that the coming years now onwards, I believe it will involve a lot of technology. If we say that after the pandemic things will be normal and we'll go back to the traditional thing, I don't think it's happening very soon.
Um, we may not go back to the old way totally as we knew it. And let's be very honest, those of us who are in our 50s and late 50s on the cusp of retirement, we may not be wanting to use technology all the time, but we do use it. We make our own PowerPoints, we download videos. So it's not like we don't know how to use technology. Sorry, in the classroom, we have been doing it. But I still feel, as I said at the end, it is not the only learning paradigm that can be used. We cannot be going 100%, technology. Technology is not that difficult to grasp, and learning never stops. One stops learning only when one's heart stops beating, is what I would say. So yes, it is a little difficult. It took me. It involved a lot of stress for me, of course. I didn't see why I had to learn this, all this online Google Meet and all these kind of things. But it does, yes, it makes you happy to know that you can learn something new. And educators of my age, our age group, we are not in competition with the young ones, okay? The young ones are born tech savvy. Their fingers just move over that phone now, that keyboard. You and I may be two-finger typists. Doesn't
I
matter.
I have observed my children, my
Yes.
students also. They sometimes are so brilliant at it that they'll simply tell me the steps. This ma'am, please go here. This key, that.
Yes,
And
it has
it's
happened
like
with me also. I'm trying to
so I
start the
often
desktop in the
I
classroom
I
and they will
often tell
guide me.
them. So I often tell them that if you can use this kind of fast learning of yours in the subjects also, that would be really good.
Yes.
Because so
The,
I think they're born into that technology age
yes, the
that
evolution has taken place. There's
it's
no
very
doubt
easy
about
for
it.
them.
Probably if this had all come when we were in our 20s, we might have been, I don't know where. You know, it's so process of learning is there. It does involve a little stress, but it's not difficult. And if one keeps in touch with it, like, see, I had stopped all things involved with this 4.5 months ago. So for me to get back to Google Meet and I this StreamYard, this is something new. I was so stressed out. You can ask Ria. I said, Ria, what is it? Something new. I've never heard of it. She said, ma'am, don't worry. Everything will fall in place. So I also, one thing is, when children are too much into learning from technology, Quora can give you a multitude of answers to one simple question. And then again, they are in doubt which is the right one. So I always, if you contact any of my ex students, I use a very favorite sentence and I say, listen, girls, uh, you don't need me to teach you mathematics or any other teacher to teach you geography, history, little bit of intelligent and knowing how to use technology. You can learn. You need the donkey on the platform to teach you about life. And that, I believe, is what educators are called to do. We are there to teach them through our lessons, through our
You have just hit the nail
value
because I
based.
remember
Yes,
you hit the nail. This Quora thing. I
yes,
have tried it many a times for many questions, and then you get such opposite answers and such
exactly.
convincing, and not that they're not giving you logics. They're very convincing answers.
Very,
So then
very
you get
convincing,
confused.
very logical, but
Yeah.
you don't know which to choose.
Yes. So I think
So,
here comes in education because in choosing also, if you have that knowledge, you have had an interaction with your teacher, or you've ever talked about it, that will give you the
yes,
clarity as to
yes.
which answer is
So we
actually
become,
applicable to me.
yes, we become facilitators of education. We are not here now. We have also figured out that we may still use chalk and duster and whatever, but we have also realized now that I am not the be all and end all. They don't have to take whatever I say as the absolute truth.
Yeah.
But when they have a multitude of options to choose from, then from my past knowledge, from my experience, I can steer them in that direction. I say, but look at this, look at this, look at your question, see what your question is asking you exactly, find the hidden clue word, and then choose the appropriate answer,
Yeah, I
especially
mean,
when it
we can
comes to.
incorporate technology like we do in our classes. For
Mhm.
example, we are teaching English literature, Shakespeare, poems, etc. We do tell them that, go on the net, this is the correct website. So I think this is where a teacher's role in modern education is, that you're not teaching them only subjective things, but that knowledge is out there in the world. A teacher is meant to guide them to get the correct, to choose the
True,
correct one.
true.
When I was teaching them Shakespeare, they was like, ma'am, can we have something else? What you're teaching is good, but can we get some help from elsewhere also? So I told him certain websites, and I said, apart from these, if you
Hmm.
go anywhere else, you'll get confused. So
Hmm.
they this is where my role was very important, because they came back to me and they said that, ma'am, thank you for telling us those specific websites. Why?
Hmm.
Because there were so many and we would have wasted our time going through
Time.
each one.
True, true,
But because you
true.
told us the correct one, it did not take us time to complete our project or to write up the answer. So I think teachers' role now with technology is to upgrading ourselves is important, because then only we
Yes,
can guide
definitely.
them.
Yes,
We
we
can
need to
guide
upgrade
them.
ourselves. Yeah, mental
So
blocks
thank
need
you.
to. They might remain, but
Oh
they
yes,
need to become smaller in
it's like
size where our
we cannot say
generation is
that we have
concerned.
already been into this for 20 years.
No,
So
no,
that's all.
we need to
We
change.
shouldn't.
Change
Yeah,
is the
we need
only
to.
constant in life. Yeah, but we need to
And not
adapt.
just
It's basically
students, not
adaptation.
just, yeah, not just students, ma'am, even we. have benefited from technology. Even if we say it's not good, somewhere we know that sometimes we also go on Google and search, so much. Before that, we were hunting in the library, but books for books, and books were not available all the time. Somebody or the other had already taken it. So either you had to wait for a week for the person to return. But here, if the book is not there, you can at least go and you'll find a PDF on your Google. So yes, technology, in our lives also as teachers, we should realize is making a lot of difference. Aren't we, through technology talking to each other? So this wouldn't have happened.
Right. This would not have happened if it was not. Yeah. Pros and cons, but they need to be balanced. They need to be balanced. That's all I'm trying to say.
That is why
the balance is very important.
That is why under the CBSE patterns, we are not teachers but facilitators. Why? Because we just facilitate, showing them the correct thing. That's all, and we ourselves learn from them also.
Right.
They sometimes tell us, ma'am, did you go and see this video? Did you watch this? Did you read this? And they come up with such nice articles, sometimes for us to read. So therefore, I think what we call generation gap can only be filled up if we try and learn what our children are learning.
Yes, that's true. Absolutely true.
So thank you, Ninette Dsousa, ma'am, for being here and opening up our minds and encouraging those teachers who were a little apprehensive as to how technology and what. And these days, nobody minds teaching you. I think those are the days bygones, where we felt ashamed of asking people that I do not know this. Can you teach? But these days, I think this good thing has happened that nobody minds when you ask them.
Definitely
even
not.
A child doesn't mind. Initially we used to think our teachers are perfect, but now our students know this, that okay, my teacher doesn't belong to this technology age, so let me help her. They don't go, all right, oh, you don't know this. They don't have that expression.
I have never experienced children making fun of me.
I have never experienced this. And they're very loving when they teach.
Yes.
They're good teachers.
True. Miss, shall I help you out? Miss, can I help you out? They'll come very quietly and whisper in the ear.
They could teach you repeatedly.
Yeah.
They can teach you repeatedly, and the moment you say this is not done, they know the way even how to teach. If you're not doing it at the first go through, they'll make a video of it and they'll send it to you stepwise, what has to be done. So thank you. So we are happy that every generation has their own flaws and virtues. So even we had it when we were growing up. We had a gap with our own a grandfather, grandmother, and everybody. So it's all right, okay. But what I'm happy about now is that we are filling up that gap from both the ends. They are also filling up, we are also filling up. So I think we can look forward to a very, very good future, that these children will be sensitive. What we say, that these children are not sensitive, they don't listen. It's not like that. They have such a lot to do in their lives right now. When we were growing up, we did not have so many things.
Childhood was fun when we were growing up.
Now these poor children, they don't even have time after school. So we cannot blame them for not learning certain values from us or not learning certain things. They're good human beings. Now I feel this generation, they're very good human beings, straightforward, honest, nice learners. So thank you, ma'am. And let's see if we get another very interesting topic to talk about next.
Thank you very much. Nice chatting with you. Thank you.